Hey, running friends. Welcome to the Wrinkled Runner podcast. I'm Sherry, the Wrinkled Runner. I'm over 50 and I love to run wherever I go, but Buffalo, New York is my home. If you are looking to start to run or you're an older runner, this podcast is especially for you, so subscribe now. I love to help people get running and keep running. Today's episode is going to be a lot of fun. I'll be running a 35-minute run walk with my son David, who is just starting a run program. I have him doing the RRCA Start to Run program, and he is in week 3. So he's doing a 5-minute warm-up, 3-minute run, 2-minute walk for 5 cycles, and then a 5-minute cool down. Go ahead and join us, and I'll announce every time we transition to a different interval so you can get a run walk in while David and I talk about beginning running. For the rest of the RRCA Start to Run program, link up to it in the show notes. Let's get going. Okay, so we're starting the 5-minute warm up right now. That's just straight walking. And I'll let you know when we go into our 3-minute run. As we run, I'll be talking to David about things as they come up and hitting a few areas like his experience at the running store to get his new shoes. This is going to be a pretty loose conversation as far as scripting goes. I really didn't give him anything to think about beforehand. David's really easy to talk to, so I hope you enjoy hearing from someone who is just a few weeks into his Start to Run program. If you have any questions about your Start to Run journey that maybe David and I could talk about so you can get a perspective from a new runner, email me and let me know. It is so helpful to hear from you. The questions you ask help me a lot, and I would love to bounce answers off a new runner to see if what I'm answering makes sense or maybe there should be more clarity. I know that sometimes those of us who have been running a while can take for granted that a new runner knows things that maybe they don't. Okay, so let's get started with interviewing David. Okay, so it can be super intimidating for new runners to go and get a pair of shoes. And so a lot of times they will go to a big box store where no one's going to pay any attention to them, get shoes off the internet, they go for the cutest ones, anything to avoid talking to people about their shoe. So it can be intimidating. How did you feel when you first went to that store?
Well, it was definitely intimidating is the right word when I first walked in. But I think the one difference between going to a big box store online versus a shoe store or the running store is you're dealing with people who are actually passionate about running. So clearly I had no idea what I was talking about or what I was doing. But the guy there jumped right in, answered all my questions, was giving me different advice on how to get started, as well as measured my shoe size, my gait, the pressure distribution. So it wasn't just picking out a shoe that looked cool or having no idea what it was about, but actually looking at the specifics of my particular running style and giving me selections of shoes based off of that. So once you actually get started, not only is it not scary, but it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah. And you really liked the guy that you were working with.
Yeah, definitely.
He was awesome. Even for me, he was awesome. You know, he was asking how many miles per week I run, and he really knew what he was talking about as far as what shoe I should be in, what shoe you should be in, depending on what our running profile was. So he was actually really, really good. So once you got over the intimidation part, and I think for you, even asking for help was a little intimidating at first. And they brought you all the shoes and you were trying shoes on. And I remember you asking, how can you tell if a shoe is the one you should be wearing? And then all of a sudden you kind of just knew. And so can you talk a little bit about that as a new runner or as someone who hasn't run? Well, you found.
I think that's the important thing about going to a running shoe store is you're not dealing with a choice of 1 or 2 sneakers, but a choice of 50 or 60. as the guy answered, as you did, and as I found out for myself, it's kind of difficult to, it is difficult to kind of define why a particular shoe is the one that you prefer. He did make the selection of a variety of shoes based off of my profile, but then within those was different preferences on how soft it was, what the feel on the foot was, as well as the feel of just as you're running in it. And so the way he did it with me was we tried on 3 pairs based off of my preference of those. He selected similar styles to the ones that I liked and kept bringing them out. Now for me, I had a couple that felt like they were sliding out of the back foot, some that just felt uncomfortable to me as I was walking. But then when I tried the ones I ended up going with, it just all around felt like a good shoe to walk in. It was incredibly comfortable. It wasn't slipping at all. Is that the
Yeah, we are going to enter our 3-minute run now if this person would look up so we don't get hit by a car. Because now these people can go.
What an idiot.
Running pet peeve. Trying to cross the street and the person driving is not paying attention. Therefore, you can't cross the street. So we're in our 3-minute run right now. And we're gonna do a 2-minute recovery walk. So anyway, go ahead, David.
Well, no. So I think it's not so much a describing of this is what you need to look for, because I think everyone's preference is going to be different. I think the important thing is not to pick the first shoe, but to work with one of the running professionals and try on a multiple variety of shoes to kind of find which one is going to be best selection for you. The other nice thing about a running store, there's a lot of them, well, the one we went to anyway, will allow you to exchange if you don't like it. So you can actually go out in the field and do a run, see how it feels. And if you don't like it, you can go back and get help from them further.
Yes, and as I recall, I want to say at Fleet Feet it's 60 days, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yep, 60 days.
60 days. So that's a pretty awesome time that you can decide whether you want your shoes or not. Now, and again, for someone like you who's just starting to run and you're doing kind of this run walk thing, you might not know for a whole month that those shoes aren't actually right for you because you're out for 30 minutes a day. Not all of it is running. But when you get to the point where you are running more, maybe you do find like, well, when I run longer, I'm getting blisters or things like that. Now, it seems like you find those shoes pretty comfortable. So.
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, when I run on average 40 miles a week when I'm in training. So I will a lot sooner be able to decide that a pair of shoes isn't right for me. But I love that they give you a full 2 months to figure that out. So we have about 20 seconds left before we're going to go into a 2-minute recovery. Now, what David is doing is the RRCA Start to Run program that I recommend to all my new beginner runners. And he's already completed just 1 second. Okay, we're recovering. We're walking for 2 minutes. You're trying to get your heart rate back down. You're fully recovering from the run section. So what he is doing is he started at walk for 4 minutes, run for 1 minute. And then he actually found that pretty easy because he's in pretty good shape. And so we switched him to 2 minutes running, 3 minutes walking after only a couple days of doing the 1 minute run, 4 minute walk. Now he's into 3 minutes of running, 2 minutes of walking. So this is like the first time he's
running more than he's walking.
And I wasn't aware that we were switching it so soon.
Well, this is the day.
This is the first day. This is the first time I'm hearing I'm running more than I'm walking.
Well,
Just kidding.
that looks like a ginkgo nut. I think it is a ginkgo nut. When we lived in Japan, there were ginkgo nuts everywhere. And people would actually come out with their little baggies and they would gather them from the ground. There were a ton of them up and down the street near where we lived.
In the fall, they would just be all over the ground, and you'd be squishing them. So it was actually great that people were actually picking them up.
Okay, so in another 20 seconds, they're going to be in the 3-minute run again. So this is where it kind of starts to get to where you're feeling a little bit more like you're getting a workout in, because your running is more than your walk. And here we go into our 3-minute run.
Hey, one thing I'd like to throw out there as well is, in the past when I've attempted to start running, I was very gung-ho. I jump into it, number one, without the right gear, and number two, trying to go running straight for a mile, try to run straight for a couple miles. And part of that is why I think I ended up quitting so quickly as well, is you run, you get exhausted, and you're done.
Yep.
And as much as I thought, even this time around, hey, I'm not in bad shape. Well, that's debatable, I guess, but I can just jump into it. You were insistent on starting with the lowest level, which was a 4-minute walking, 1-minute run, and then just upping it quicker if you decided that's going to be the best course of action. And I think in doing that, it really helped me find where my starting value, let's say, was, or my starting run, and then to build up off of that, as opposed to just hit the ground running. But instead of just burning myself out quickly, we're using this to build up to that point without burning myself out.
Right. And that is so important. That is so important because, if you would have just run straight for a mile, even the first day, I don't think you wouldn't be so enthusiastic about getting up at 7 a.m. and getting out, because it'd be torture. Your body is getting used to these muscles doing what they're doing, and this is a nice, easy, gradual way, which is why even after you reach the point where you're running straight for 30, 35, 40 minutes, I like to chunk up runs. So it's not just, go out for 5 miles. It's, warm up at this pace for 2 miles and, do some of this and do some of this. And I think it makes it a lot more pleasant when you can chunk it up. And I think the time goes by a lot faster when you do that.
Well, and then another big thing for me was having a running coach. They can help set that pace. It's another thing that I like to just go at my all.
Yep.
And then within, a few hundred feet, you're dying.
Yep.
Where if you have someone who's much better at pacing themselves and aware of the need to pace yourself in a run.
We're going to go into our 2-minute walk now.
You help set that so that, it's something that I'm not even consciously doing, but something I do nonetheless, which makes me exhausted.
Yep.
And so by having you help me set that pace, it makes it all much more doable and to set that endurance.
Right, yeah. And I know sometimes even with these run walks, I'm pulling you back, and listen, you got to get through 4 more of these combinations or, whatever we're doing on the day. And many people just start out, like you said, going great guns. And then where's your win? You're exhausted. You can only go a couple hundred feet. It feels like a failure, especially because in high school, even though you didn't run track, you could beat all the track kids when you would race against them. And so you know that you
in
actually,
short distance.
well, yes, in short distances, but you knew. Some people look back at their high school days or whatever and think about how they were then, think that they can be that way now. And where someone like me, who's 55, even if I did have high school days with that, which I didn't, but so that's not that big a deal. But for you, you're in your early 30s. High school wasn't that far away behind you. So I think getting a coach has been good for you to kind of learn something about running and then know how to go about it.
It's all about a mindset. I've always been, or I think when you're on the outside looking in, that what makes a good marathoner is someone who can go at their maximum for a long distance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the case.
Right.
Part of being a marathoner is knowing
we're going to go into our 3-minute run right now.
So part of being a marathoner is knowing what your pace is for a certain distance in order to be able to maintain that. So you're looking for an optimization of speed versus endurance.
Exactly.
Where, when you're just running for fun or sprinting, you don't care about endurance. All you care about is the speed.
Yes.
And that's a mindset that I've never had before going into a run, where now that is more of something I'm consciously thinking about is, okay, if I need to go for X distance or X time, well, a full-out sprint for 3 minutes is going to be a lot harder than if I'm pacing myself.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that you do end up learning the longer that you run, which is why, those of us who are coaches and other people who know a lot about it are always preaching, run most of your runs easy. Don't go all out for every run. Don't try to PR every run, because you're not going to have any gas in the tank to PR your races. And the longer distance you go, the more it is about endurance and fueling and all of those kinds of things versus, running so fast that you couldn't possibly go 26.2 miles at whatever pace you think you can, especially when you first start out.
Yeah. Another important thing, I think, also, going back to the original prepping for the run, the first thing they had me do was buy a pair of shorts, recommend a pair of long pants for the weather, and a shirt that's not going to just be a cotton run-of-the-mill t-shirt, because your clothing is also just as important, because that's going to keep you comfortable, keep you cool, and just ultimately help you with these longer distance runs.
Exactly. And it's funny, you're hitting on a lot of points that I've made in standalone episodes about what to wear, going to the shoe store, not going all out right away. So I'll link everybody up to those episodes and kind of the lessons that I've been teaching David throughout the past couple of weeks, so that you can listen in on them too. But it's cool to hear that you're actually absorbing some of those. Okay, we're recovering now for 2 minutes. We're at the end of the third of 5 3-minute runs, 2-minute walks. It's funny because, Daddy and I run together. We talk a lot when we're running, but this interview style seems to be more taxing because I have to think more.
Yeah.
And so I feel more out of breath. So I'm actually enjoying these walk breaks to really recover. And one thing you're going to have to, we're in Buffalo, so you are going to have to start thinking about winter running gear, because if you're miserable, you're not going to keep up, and it's really hard in the mornings. I mean, I guess when we run in the mornings now at 7 a.m., it's still pretty dark, but it's going to be darker, and it's just not fun when you have to get up. It's freezing outside and you're going for a run, which is another reason why sometimes I recommend that you sign up for a race so that you have something to look forward to or an end goal. Just because if you're getting up just to run, for some people, now some people, they don't need that motivation. Some people do. So it's just something to think about as a new runner.
Well, and I certainly do, but that's the other benefit of a coach, right? I mean, it's not just about setting me up to run, but hold you to the accountability of running.
Right.
And so, I am not, it is very difficult for me to get into habits.
Okay, we're running for 3 minutes.
And when you're talking about, every day, hey, I'm going to be ready at 7. Hey, we're going to be up at 7. And I wake up knowing, okay, if I don't get out of bed, she's going to be waiting for me. Yeah. And that actually is my big motivation for rolling out, getting my running gear ready, and getting ready to go out for this run, is that accountability of my coach is waiting for me.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I am, I am happy to do it, and I love doing it. And if anyone says, let's go for a run, I'm ready to go for a run. But because of where I am in my life, I do not have to be up and dressed and ready to run at 7 o'clock, so it is a motivation for the both of us, because I do, it's funny because in the colder weather, I like the sun and whatever, but I also really like getting that run done, which is really crazy because I love running, but I also love getting it done first thing in the morning. You just feel this sense of accomplishment, and you can go for the rest of the day. And because I know you're getting up and you don't have to, I'm actually setting my alarm so that I'm up and I got the workout ready, and I need to work on making sure it's on my watch for some reason before we head out, because it's been glitching a bit. But I think that's a benefit of having either a coach or a running partner, is that accountability. Because neither one of you wants to be the one to say, I'm just not feeling it this morning. Unless, of course, you're sick or injured. And then there's Daddy, where I have to get up at 5:45. And it's also nice starting the day. I mean, I'm your coach, but I'm also your mom. So it's nice starting the day with being able to, okay, another pet peeve, I hate lights where you have no idea what they're doing. The walking man is telling you can't go, but the light is red and no one seems to be going anywhere. But, so it is nice to kind of connect in the mornings, and be able to just talk and,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Fun.
For sure.
Okay, so 2-minute recovery, which we've kind of already been in because we're stuck at the light.
Now, do you alter anything when you're stuck at a light?
I do not. I don't pause. I don't, those 30 seconds or whatever is not worth it to me to pause, or I just go with the flow, and for some people, they pause it and they do all these things, and I'm just like, you know what? It's going to all come out in the wash. If I'm training the way I'm supposed to be training, that 30 seconds, if that makes or breaks my what I want my pace to be or whatever, then I'm doing something wrong, So
Yeah.
I don't pause it or anything like that. And also for a lot of people who are doing like a run walking program, they first starting, it's like what you're doing. You're going to be out there now. We're up to 35 minutes. You're going to be out there for 35 minutes. For somebody who works, has to catch a bus, has to whatever, that is very helpful to know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out any later than 35 minutes from now.
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely huge for me with, because I can set a time by 7. We're back by 7:35. I can shower and be ready for the first call of the day. And I know that's going to be consistent and like that. I don't have to ever actually worry about missing that time.
Exactly. Where if you go out for mileage, that's going to have an impact. Because if you are stuck at a light, and even if it will have impact too, if you're stuck at a light and you pause your workout. And if you do that too much, if it's during rush hour and you keep pausing your watch every time, let's see, 2, 1, run. You pause your watch every time you're at a stop sign or whatever, that does eat into your time. And it could add up depending on where you live and the circumstances of how soon you do need to be back at the house.
Yeah.
So, and if you're going by a distance, like, if you're supposed to do a 5-miler and it's rush hour, that could take you a long time.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, so that's why I also like the not stopping, and the timer method is I can, without judgment, stop and not have to run anymore for a few minutes while I'm waiting for the light.
Exactly. And we don't bounce around. I'm not like running in place. I'm just stopped, I'm relaxed about it. If running ceases to be fun, then I'm not going to do it, you know what I mean? It's like, if it becomes like a job when I'm stressed about every time having to stop it, or I get mad because I'm like, oh, I forgot to stop it. It just gets frustrating. And so I'm fully in the I don't adjust camp when it comes to that. But some people aren't. Some people, they even manually do their laps. And I don't do that either.
Yeah, but I guess that's what you said, right? Ultimately, it's what you enjoy doing.
Right.
And what's making the most of it for you.
Yeah, what's going to get you out the door. So. And how is this feeling? We're on our last run. And so this is you're running for 15 minutes, not consecutively, but this is the most you've run since we started this.
Yeah.
How are your legs feeling? How are you feeling?
Legs are feeling good. I'm definitely much more out of breath than I usually am. Which partly is running more than I'm walking. So I think I might have to adjust my pace going forward.
Yeah.
When I start out.
Yep. Yeah, and that's an important thing too with running, is really feeling the run and thinking to yourself with purpose at the end of the run, okay, what do I need to do next time when I run this exact run to make it a better run? An adjustment that's the smart thing to do. Hey, this is supposed to be an easy run. It's not feeling super easy at the end. So what do I need to do to make it easy? Or I think a lot of beginners would be like, okay, we're in our 2-minute recovery, or last 2-minute recovery before a 5-minute cool down. People think, okay, what can I do to make that next one faster? And that's when injuries happen, burnout happens, because I don't care who you are, you can't keep getting faster for everything. So I think your mindset of adjusting backwards is the smart thing, So you're like a coach's dream. I don't know if people can tell through some of the things that you have said But David is an engineer, and so he also works in the biomedical field. So physiology and things like that, he does know. So he is very easy to coach because he can apply formulas and problem solving and things like that and apply it to his running, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, it also helps when you have someone who's very, still pushing you even when you're saying, hey, I want to dial it back, or hey, that thing is too much for me. You still have that support. You're not, you're not yelling at me, well, too bad, run faster, you'll figure it out. Or, but it's, hey, that's okay. If you need to dial it back, let's dial it back.
Yeah.
And to have that support so that you still feel like you're winning.
Yep.
Even if you have to pull it back because you know that in the long run it's going to be more beneficial towards you, for you. I think it's big. It's helpful.
And I think that's a job of a coach. I mean, if you have a coach and your coach is constantly telling you, get it done and go faster, and there's a difference between. Okay, morning. Okay, so we are in our 5-minute cool down now. There's a difference between, hey, I'm feeling a little stressed, and me knowing the difference of, okay, he needs to dial it back, or the encouragement of, hey, I really think you can do this based on your data or your running or whatever. So let's just keep on trying this for another 2 minutes or whatever,
Yeah. Well, I think that's the importance of having a coach. A coach is they're gonna be able to, a good coach anyway, is gonna be able to tell when you are able to go further and push you towards that, and also knows when you're pushing yourself too hard and pulling you back.
Yeah.
So that you're optimizing your workout, and the coach is looking at the long term, not just that one run.
Right.
And so that's something that when I'm on my own, I'm always pushing myself to go harder and harder. And depending on who I'm with, I also feel like I have to go harder and harder.
Yeah.
And so, when you're with someone who's very open with, no, it's okay to pull it back, or hey, I remember the first time we ran, you made a comment about, hey, let's slow down the pace a little bit. And I think that's important to have someone who's going to be there for you to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's so funny because it's like, I mean, I know you're not like sitting around listening to the podcast or reading a blog or going over on YouTube watching my video as much as you can, but it's just funny all the things that you have pulled out just in the first few weeks of running that I cover, because I know that it's important, but it's nice to hear you say it and hear that you're getting it and that you're thinking these things through, because sometimes those of us who've been running for a long time, we forget the things that we should have known back when we started, and we wished we would have known back when we started. So it's just nice that you are thinking things through, and that you're also hitting a lot of the points that I hit, and just it's validation that, okay, those things are important,
Yeah.
and
well, and
that's
the great thing that's another great thing about having a coach is you can tailor all the different things that you did, or all the different blogs and the videos, and you can tailor it to specifically what I need at the time and building it up with me. And then, if I need more details, that's when I can pull open the blog and read more in depth of those specific articles.
Yeah.
Oh, they're backing out. I was wondering why you weren't going on that driveway.
Yeah. Yeah. So we still have 2 minutes left of the cool down. You've been a great advocate for coaches, and I promise I haven't been asking him to do that.
I think the reason I'm so advocate for it is because this is the first time ever, and again, it's not just saying this, but that I've actually been enjoying and looking forward to a run. I mean, even today, I wasn't supposed to run.
Yeah, right.
And then I said, you know what, hey, I'll join you on your morning run to begin with, and then you can use me as the warm-up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's really cool.
I want to thank David for joining me on this episode. He had a lot of good things to say, totally unsolicited, about having a coach. And I'll link you to Wrinkled Runner resources that go hand in hand with some of the things that we talked about today. I'd love for David to be able to say goodbye, but that part of the audio was totally messed up and unfortunately it was unusable. There's a few more minutes of cool down before we get to the end of this workout, so let me tell you about next week's episode, which will also be the last one of season 4. I'll be explaining how to tell when you need to replace your running shoes. If you haven't been keeping track of the mileage on them and you've been running for a while, there are other ways that you should be able to tell that it's time to replace them. This week's running resource is one that we've had before, but relevant to today's topic, and that is the RRCA Start to Run program. Like David and I talked about, breaking up a run into a run walk can help you stay motivated and keep things really easy so you don't do too much too soon. Check it out in the show notes if you want to run but haven't taken your first step yet. Okay, so we are 3, 2, 1. Okay, cool down is over. To end this episode, I want to tell you about Run Show USA, Boston. This running convention will be held February 4th and 5th, 2023 at the Heinz Convention Center in Boston, Massachusetts, and I'll be there as an ambassador. If you use the code Wrinkled Runner, you can get your tickets for free. I'll also be hosting a morning run on the 4th, a coffee meetup at the Run Cafe, and I'm planning to record an Ask the Coach podcast session that you can be a part of. The sign-up page will be up soon, so head over to the Wrinkled Runner website to sign up for the newsletter for more information and to join me at the Run Show. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you know another runner who could benefit from today's topic, go ahead and share it. Do you have any running questions? You can ask me. Email me at sherry@wrinkledrunner.com, and if I can't answer your question, I will do the research to find the answer and share it with you. The questions I get from listeners like you help me develop episodes, so please don't be shy. You can sign up for my once-a-month newsletter using the link provided so that you can have all the Wrinkled Runner resources from the past month all in one place. I also have opened up my virtual coaching in addition to coaching one-on-one with those in the Buffalo, New York area. So head to my coaching page on the Wrinkled Runner website, which I will, of course, link to, and check out how we may be able to work together. Until next Monday, thanks for listening, and I'll see you on the run.